When I first came on the trip, I was 12 years old, and I remember saying, a fishing trip to Idaho. One, why would I ever want to go to Idaho? And two, why would I want to spend my time there fishing?
My first thought was, I've never heard of Idaho. I didn't know what it was. Fly fishing, I thought that it was something completely different. I'm not the type of person to get down in the dirt and go fishing and hunting, so I wasn't very excited for it. But it's really changed my perspective.
When you're on the river, it's almost like a forceful rest, and I think that we can find so much healing in just the act of restfulness. And as simple as that sound, On River Time offers that for kids. And when we're in the chaos of life, or when we have house parents leave, or we have a biological parent pass away, or we have a biological brother or sister that's in and out of jail, and you come to a place like this and you're loved on by so many people, and you get to experience true rest in God's nature, these kids can just find confidence knowing that there is peace in the midst of chaos.
On River Time exists to present moments to kids that we believe change their lives and the path that they're on. You know, I was abused as a child when I was young, 6 or 7 years old, and I never really told anybody about it until I was into my mid-30s. My soul was lifted on this river, and I wanted to be able to share that experience with these kids who many have had the same experience that I had. And it's not about the fishing. I think the fishing is just a way of connecting. I think it's the fact that somebody actually cares.
This place, the Lodge at Palisades Creek, is such a special place, and it's really incredible to be able to bring the kids here. It's an Orvis endorsed lodge, which is a big deal, and it's just really known far and wide. But when we bring the kids from the children's homes here, they just absolutely roll out the red carpet for them. And it's all really designed to say, you're worth it.
I grew up at a children's home. I lived there for 7 years. My children's home, we didn't do a lot of activities at all. What I really love that our kids get a chance to see is something that kids in out-of-home care very rarely get to see. And that's an opportunity to have a first-class experience. It's not a hand-me-down, it's not a second-rate experience, it's not something that, you know, anybody could just go and do. And it certainly sends a message to the boys and girls that we bring that they are special and that they are loved and they treasure it.
So this week has been full of moments, and we're big believers in moments. You start from just the plane trip and how only I think 2 of ours had ever even been on a plane before. So you get to experience the first step of overcoming fear. And then the next day you get to go fishing, you get to experience this beautiful thing. And the boy that I got to fish with, he just loves fishing, like just had loved it before he came and is truly obsessed with it now. To see him land his first fish and almost look at it in amazement, like, one, I caught that, 2, God, that doesn't look anything like this ugly bass that I normally catch. Like, it was like this moment. But then those moments begin to get deeper.
The On River Time camp is designed to be both a fun camp experience for the kids, but then also we have a lot of moments built in where they have an opportunity to go deep. These kids are dealing with a lot of hardship. And one thing that we do is, one of the first nights, all of the children and adults are encouraged to write down the fear that they have and put it in the fire. They come from so much generational pain, and they want to break that cycle. And this one boy shared that his dad was abusive, his mom was abusive, and his biggest fear is that he would grow up and be abusive.
He's just crying when he's laying his fear, when he's laying it at the feet of the cross, when he's laying it in the fire and saying, you no longer consume me. And I had a chance to ask him afterwards. He was like, you know, there's a lot of things that came roaring back today that I hadn't thought of in a long time. He said, tonight when I was laying them down and I was truly writing down the things that I fear, he's like, they came roaring back. He said, but tonight I realized that's no longer my destiny. And just that moment, that moment of freedom, that it was like he had this one last, he needed to face it one more time. And he had this opportunity to just go, it's no longer mine.
I think being out here has while it's been awesome for him and it's incredible, they do think about the families that they come from, and they ask some questions that I'm really glad to hear them ask. And maybe they wouldn't have asked that if they were just at the children's home and we were having these conversations.
These questions that we ask, things like, what are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your fears? And have you ever seen God acting in your life? Making that connection. They begin to think back and say, yeah, maybe this isn't by accident after all. Maybe I'm here for a reason. And as we begin to thread those things together, I think the unity of the physical experience, the emotional experience, but the spiritual experience is central.
You know, sometimes it does take a new experience to give you new perspective. And when you receive a new perspective and you see how big and how great our God is, that's when healing truly begins to take place. And so I believe that's what happened to Steve, and that's what he shares with us, that on this river, he began to experience that healing. And so now he's offering that same opportunity to our kids. And that is a beautiful thing. It's invaluable in their life.
I cannot choose one favorite part of the trip. But the wisdom that's been poured into me on this trip is amazing. And I appreciate it a lot. I've got to grow in my relationship with God on this trip. And I'm so happy to be surrounded with people who have a relationship with Jesus and can just teach me more about Him and how to grow in Him and become more like Him every day. I definitely think that this trip has helped me figure out more about myself even, and how I act around different people. And it's been amazing to see different people who come from the same situation that I do, and it's cool to interact with them.
Going house to house, place to place, not knowing where you're going to sleep at night sometimes, not knowing when your next meal is going to be, not knowing who's there for you and who's not. It's really nice to know that, there's this group of people that do care and that do want you to have the best time and you to realize that you are cared for and that you are loved.
So my main fear was getting close to people, because growing up in Palmer Home, throughout it all, I had different house parents come in and leave. And so it was kind of hard. I get close to one set and then they leave and I have to restart. So it's like that fear that I was gonna get close to someone and then they were just gonna leave. And then the idea of throwing it into a fire to release it was just amazing to me. I could feel relief. As soon as I threw it in there, it was like, wow, I don't even feel that fear anymore, really.
It's just amazing that these kids are allowed to come together in a safe place with adults who care, with children who are just like them, and face that pain and deal with it and have an opportunity for healing and move on, and then have fun experiences and go fly fishing and see the Grand Tetons and go whitewater rafting and all of these other things.
Just being able to grow closer in a relationship with fellow believers and putting away things that held us back, like our shame, our guilt, our fear, just kind of relieved me and just made me glad about who I live for. And I'm able to take back home what I've been taught here.
When I think about the moments that are really going to make a difference, and I see what happens here in 4 or 5 days, it's the difference between a life that's confused and disoriented versus a life with purpose. And that to me is all the difference that makes all this investment worth every bit.
You're seeing complete differences in trajectory for their life. And so we're just so thankful for the opportunity that each and every one of our kids gets here.
And when you give to On River Time, it's not just taking them fly fishing or going to see the mountains. This is such a transformational moment in their lives. It's beautiful, and I'm just so thankful to be part of it.